In a video where I talk about the myth of a tired dog is a happy dog, I mentioned fetch as one of the activities that folks will commonly engage in with their dogs in an attempt to tire their dog out, thinking that's what their dog needs. And I got a lot of comments about fetch in particular on that video, and so I'm going to make several videos responding to some of those questions. So fetch is not one of my favorite games. As a behavior consultant specializing in aggression and nervous system dysregulation, a lot of my work revolves around teaching dogs to regulate themselves, come back down into their bodies. And fetch is a very arousing game. It's a very repetitive game, and it's a game that is an outlet for parts of the predatory sequence. And so as the dog is engaging in this repetitive behavior again and again and again and again, it can actually become compulsive. And instead of tiring a dog out in like a relaxed way, it tends to tire a dog out in like an exhausted kind of way, and that's not what we're aiming for. And then physically, that repetition of running back and forth and back and forth and back and forth is also not great for the dog physically. So behaviorally, emotionally, and physically, we have some concerns of fallout from fetch. Now, I'm not completely against fetch, but I think it should be done with care. And if you have a dog who is susceptible to developing fetch as a compulsive behavior, which I'll talk about in a separate video, or if you have a dog who struggles to self-regulate or spends a lot of time in a highly aroused state, I recommend either staying away from fetch or turning it into an on-off switch game. And I talk a lot more about on-off switch games in videos saved to one of our collections, the enrichment collection on one of the, on our page. On-off switch games are where you play with the level of arousal and then the act of coming back down. And so for fetch, a common way I turn that into an on-off switch game is by throwing the ball somewhere that the dog has to sniff it out. And so into tall grass or leaves or a wooded area or around a corner. But instead of just running back and forth, we get the dog's brain engaged, we get them seeking, and the sniffing is going to bring their arousal level back down. And so you get a little bit of arousal and then you bring them back down. And as they get better and better at that, you can increase the level of arousal. So you might start off with just little tosses and then have them running more and more. But honestly, I like to take a fetch item and turn it into a nosework game. If your dog cares enough about the ball to chase it, they probably care enough about sniffing it out as well. And that's just going to have way more benefits for your dog than a game of fetch.